Tekken 3 is just without a doubt one of the greatest fighting games ever made. I mean, I'm talking in like the top 5 arcade-style fighting games of all time. You could easily put it at the #1 spot, and very few people would actually bat an eye. I mean, all the great gameplay aside, look at the graphics of Tekken 3. This is a game from 1998 for the PlayStation 1. I mean, this could be like a PS2 game from 2004 or 5. This could be a budget game for the PS3 or Xbox 360. It looks that good. I mean, these graphics are insanely ahead of their time, and that's not the only place this game is ahead of its time. I mean, the biggest thing about an arcade fighting game is, of course, the physics and the gameplay, and the game just shines in those aspects amazingly. It just illuminates. I mean, all the moves are just crisp and perfect to execute. There's not even any kind of glitches or problems with hit detection when someone is doing crazy, extravagant moves. Like when you're playing as the guy who does capoeira and he just hits you with all these crazy kicks and punches from different angles while he's standing on his head and reading the Bible and playing a ukulele with the other hand. All the moves are just incredibly smooth. I mean, the combat in this game flows beautifully. It's like you can't do a move unless you're in a specific spot, so you perform one kind of attack and then you can perform that specific move you couldn't do before in the stance you were in before. This makes the combat just flow. I mean, in terms of fighting game combinations, you can perform some ridiculously beautiful choreography in this game. And for 1998, this would just leave a gamer's mouth agape. I have a few favorite fighters. Like, I like the guy who does capoeira, but my favorite is probably Hwoarang. He does my favorite style of fighting in any Tekken game. I mean, whenever he's a character in a Tekken game, I have to play as him. He has what I like to call elegant taekwondo. His combinations and his kicks are just so smooth, and his timing is just so good, and the attacks are just so precise. It's fantastic when he just elegantly destroys, I mean completely destroys an opponent in like 5 really well-timed kicks. I mean, his kicks are so good and elegant and just flow so well, he really barely ever needs to throw punches or throw enemies with clinches. And of course, there's a lot of really cool characters. I would say most of the characters are really cool to play. I mean, they all have their own strategies. You know, you could have this one girl who's not too good at kicks. You know, her kicks are completely one-dimensional, but when she throws you, she does these really cool throws, using her opponent's weight to give the throw a really powerful effect. And on top of the regular standard arcade-style fighting, which is nothing but flawless in Tekken 3, there's also a ton of different kinds of game modes. Like, there's a time attack mode. There's a mode where you're going through like this gauntlet, where you have one round to defeat an enemy and you keep fighting enemies until you finally get defeated. And there's even like this kind of scrolling beat-em-up type portion of the game, where you choose a character and you're thrown into this basically what amounts to a scrolling beat-em-up world, where you're constantly moving forward and fighting enemies that are attacking you on the street. Because this uses the same physics as from just the regular kind of arcade combat, this is a pretty crappy beat-em-up. Like, you don't move like you do in a normal beat-em-up, you're always kind of facing an enemy, so it's just hard to progress forward. It's just kind of a gimp beat-em-up because of the fact that they didn't change the physics from the regular combat to this completely different style of gameplay. This is pretty much the only problem with this game. Everything else is just absolutely perfect when it comes to fighting games. I mean, Tekken 3 even has little stories for all the characters you play as. I mean, they're pretty one-dimensional, but for a fighting game in 1998 to give every single character their own little tiny story, it's pretty cool. Like the little Bruce Lee kind of guy, he works this kitchen and he fights people. He's like an Asian soup Nazi. No one-inch punch for you. You have this one guy who's a cop, you have this one guy who's some kind of ninja. It's all really cool, and it keeps you coming back to the game because you want to keep playing the game over and over with different characters just to see their stories and what happens after you beat the game. Tekken 3 is just the absolute ruler. It is the prototype of 3D arcade fighting games. It is without a doubt probably the best 3D fighting game of the 90s. It's just a fantastic title. I mean, I don't want to give it a perfect 10 out of 10, but it's pretty close to that, and that's all I'm going to say about it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye, my friends.